We have a couple of kind of rules within our team and KPIs at HackerOne. So firstly, we send every single candidate that has had an interview with us, so not just the ones we've hired, every single candidate, a survey. So they can fill that out. We've designed it to be as quick as possible so that we can solicit feedback, and we review those weekly, and we'll take that feedback. If we have, a particularly bad feedback form, our director of talent will reach out to them, and try and understand, why they felt that way, and what we can do to improve.
Welcome to the All-in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify to stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I'm your host, Lydia, and with us today is Michaela Ricketts of HackerOne. Great to have you with us, Michaela.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here, Lydia.
So tell us about your journey in this, the talent space. What's kept you and what's motivated you to stay in the talent space?
Yeah, good question. So I started recruitment, I think about 12 years ago. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I'd recently had a baby, and I went into a recruitment agency and really started from the very scratch, from the very beginning, and worked my way up. I love my job. I don't think I could have chosen a better career for myself in the end. I think people always say they fell into recruitment, and in a certain way that's right, but I think the people who stay in it, love it. And I think it's just the ever-evolving landscape of recruiting. I think, things are changing all the time. Getting to work strategically within businesses on difficult roles or advising hiring managers. And it's just a really interesting, multifaceted role.
Yeah, multifaceted is definitely the right description for, especially in the era that we're living in, and the vast amount of information coming in, the different kinds of talent that you're looking at, and the different priorities at companies as well. So your role at HackerOne at this point is lead recruiter, right? So what are some key areas that you have prioritized at HackerOne? And maybe describe a little bit about how the recruitment process works, or how the business runs, really.
Yeah, sure. So at HackerOne, we have built a SaaS platform that connects the ethical hacking community to our customers. It means that we are a very tech-focused business, which is really exciting to work within. As a lead recruiter, we try to have projects running as well as, working on actual roles and recruiting people. And something that we're very focused on at the moment is candidate experience. So how can we ensure that, all candidates, whether they get the job or not, walk away feeling happy about their experience, that they want to tell their friends, that they had a good experience. Because you never know, that person that we just rejected could be, a CISO at another company that will want to speak to in future. And it's just about doing the right thing as well. So we're very focused on that. And diversity and inclusion is something that we're really trying to tackle this year as well. Our recruitment process, we try and make it as simple as possible. So you apply, we'll reach out to you if and either way, if you're not successful or if we want to speak to you further. And it always starts with a recruiter screen, and then we'll move on to the interview process. Depending on the level of role, that can look different in different pockets of the business. But one thing that we're pretty consistent on is ensuring that we keep our candidates up to date throughout the process, ensuring that they have everything they need to succeed, and ensuring that they can get all the information that they want readily available. So that's a big focus for us at the moment.
So the candidate experience itself is also, I would imagine, time focused, and you would think about giving that feedback or that result in the interview as soon as you possibly can. So what might be an ideal time frame for recruitment when it comes to a highly specialized role?
We actually have above average time to fills for all role, like across the organization. So I think we are quite quick. I think our time to fill across all roles, bearing in mind they're all very different. One could be an account executive, one could be a software engineer, but our average time to fill is around 30 days. So we do try to have processes concluded quite quickly. But again, it's trying to move quickly through the process, but while balancing that we're making good decisions. So that's making sure that we have a robust interview process. One thing that has been rolled out within HackerOne this year, my colleague Kaylee has done that, and she's rolled out structured interviewing. So before we even start to advertise a role, every interviewer will know what they're going to ask, what we're assessing, and they'll have a standard set of questions so that we're ensuring there's no bias in the process. So having everybody organised, knowing what they're doing is essential. I think that a lot of the bad interview processes that you hear or read about on LinkedIn do come from under preparation throughout the process. You can never over prep. And then ensuring that we're reviewing the processes, making sure that there aren't too many stages, that the candidate and the interviewer is actually getting something they need from this stage. Is it necessary? Could we learn that from another stage? Could we group some interviews together? And reviewing feedback consistently. So we send every candidate a feedback survey, reviewing that. If they say the process was too long, we'll look at it next time. And also the hiring managers, we send them surveys and do recruiting retros with them as well to understand whether they felt the process went quick enough, whether they feel like they got what they needed. And it's just about that constant learning, I think, and reiteration and implementation following that.
Yeah, and also the communication of that feedback into the entire process after the process is completed, and sharing that with HR or talent, your team, I would suppose, and making sure that that is constantly evolving as and when you see new candidates or new types of roles coming in to fill. And when it comes to DE&I, as you mentioned earlier, where is the focus on right now? I mean, do you put it into, how does that go into the interview process or the hiring process, this focus on DE&I?
Yeah, so it's ensuring that when we're looking at, first of all, our job description, it starts from the very beginning, is that inclusive? When we look at years of experience, and just all of the details that we start out looking for, it's about reviewing all of that with the hiring manager, talking about possibilities and scenarios that, we could consider, potentially hiring in other countries. Do we want to hire somebody with the same skill set that the team's already got, or do we want to look at bringing somebody with a new thought process into the team as well? So it's about constantly reviewing those gaps that we might have as well, and keeping it front of mind. I mean, the thing is everybody has bias. It's a controversial statement, but everybody has bias. So it's about constantly checking that, reminding people, and looking at ways that we can remove those barriers as well. And that was why structured interviewing was so important to us, to ensure that every single candidate gets the same process.
So when it comes to assessment of technical skills, I have the usual tests that all most software companies or technology companies need to do. Are there any particular methods that you found particularly useful or effective when it comes to dealing with highly specialized roles or niche skills that you might be looking for?
Yeah, good question. Technical tests, you are never going to please everybody, on the job seeking market. I get people come to me say, I would rather have a take-home test. or I would rather do the test live.
Yeah.
There's so many variations, you know, even now you've got AI doing one-way tests. So there's so many variations in that. What we do at HackerOne is obviously our technical roles are about the hard skills. So, you know, can you code? Can you complete that in a reasonable amount of time? But it's not just that we're looking for. So we do code pairing, which is where an interviewer will do live coding with the candidate, and we will give them hints and tips throughout. So, you know, we want to see how they're working with the interviewer. So are they, you know, taking that feedback on board? Are they working as a team? You know, are they actively listening to help to pass the test? So we do live coding for our software engineer roles using HackerRank, which again, you're never going to please everybody. We do typically get really good feedback on it because they get to see how they would work as a team anyway and what our vibe is within the engineering teams. And we find that, you know, we find that to be successful. And in our software engineer roles, that's the main part of the technical screen. For cybersecurity roles, we have an initial technical screen, but also a hands-on interview as well, where they'll show us how they assess vulnerabilities. I think it's just about, you know, really understanding the role's nuances, really understanding what we're looking for, and making sure that the test encompasses all of that.
And this goes back also to the candidate experience, right? I mean, are they willing to talk about it positively with their friend? And for the most part, how do you go about collecting this sort of feedback? Is there a structured way in which that feedback comes back to you?
Yeah. So we have a couple of kind of rules within our team and KPIs at HackerOne. So firstly, we send every single candidate that has had an interview with us, so not just the ones we've hired, every single candidate, a survey, so they can fill that out. We've designed it to be as quick as possible so that we can solicit feedback, and we review those weekly, and we'll take that feedback. If we have, you know, a particularly bad feedback form, our director of talent will reach out to them and try and understand, you know why they felt that way, and what we can do to improve. And we just constantly look at it and to kind of reiterate what we need to. We then look at the bigger picture. So we couple that feedback from the candidates with the hiring manager feedback of how they felt the process went. And then we also do a quality of hire report later down so once the candidate's been here for a few months as well. And we look at all of that holistically and say, how could we improve? Going back to the candidate side, I will always give candidates feedback where they ask for it. I think, you know, you're never going to please everybody. Some people don't want to hear feedback. You know, it might have really upset them that they've not got the role. They might be ready to speak in a week, or, you know, they might not want to at all. And I think we have to respect that everybody wants to hear feedback differently. You know, for me, I want an email and then an opportunity to have a phone call. Somebody else might want a phone call. But when we do eventually get those candidates on the phone to give them feedback, I will always say, how was it for you? Is there anything that we can improve on? And I'll say it throughout the process as well. So again, it's just constantly giving them the space to feel safe to talk to us and tell us what we can improve on, what we can do better.
So, Michaela, I'm curious, when it comes to benefits or what candidates are looking for in terms of compensation, benefits, what kind of packages they're looking for, or are they looking for growth? Are they looking for time off or work-life balance that fits into their lifestyles? So what is a candidate climate, so to speak, when it comes to specific communities of talent that you tend to look at?
Yeah, so we get HackerOne is digital first. That means we believe that we can do our work asynchronously in the digital realm. But we're not digital only, so we do still get together in person and meet up. I see a lot of candidates come to us based on that. You know, they want some flexibility, some work-life balance. You know, they might not be able to pick up their kids, you know, from school at the moment because they're in office, or they just, you know, want a better work-life balance. That comes up a lot. And I'd say second to that, if not equal, kind of joint first place is growth. So the questions that I get asked, you know, all the time are, what does growth look like for me in this role? How quickly can I grow? Can you tell me a career trajectory of somebody in-house that has grown? And you know, I love that we do have that mobility at HackerOne. So you know, we also handle the internal recruitment. So we do see people, you know, move across teams or get promoted, etc. And I think really in this day and age, there is a huge focus on growth. You know, am I going to learn from my manager? You know, are my team going to help lift me up to the next level? And there seems to be a much bigger focus on that, I think, now than there was maybe 10 years ago, which is really exciting to see. And companies are obviously having to keep up with that as well. So, you know, for us internally, it's about having our career development plans mapped out so we're ready to speak to HackerOne employees and candidates alike on what that looks like.
Right. That's actually interesting to look at, because we see a different kind of candidate market these days. And we're looking at, you know, it's always fluctuating. But I was thinking about how candidates have the power to dictate. And, you know, it was the Great Resignation, and then the quiet quitting, and then the different phases that you see in terms of candidates coming in, what they're expecting from a company these days if they choose to take a job, and what is the real value for candidates today, and how do you push that value forward, or present that to a candidate as you're competing with different companies, right, to get that kind of talent. I think it's interesting to see that work-life balance and growth is key when it comes to really looking at what the value proposition is from the company.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, not everybody wants the same thing. I think, you know, the other thing that we find as well is a lot of people want to work for a company with a purpose. So to feel like, you know, they're doing some good, or, you know, the company has a real mission. And it doesn't feel like it's money, you know, is the biggest thing. I think everybody has a level of income that they aspire to achieve, or they need to achieve, you know, to feed their family and, you know, still go and do nice things at the weekend, etc. But it doesn't seem to be as money motivated as it was. You know, it seems to be about, okay, I can, you know, I'm looking at the next 5 years rather than the next year.
So in your role now, you cover EMEA and also APAC. I think we're talking pre-show about that. So what are some roles that you're looking at right now? What are these, you know, where's the need when it comes to talent at HackerOne? And which regions are you looking at? What's the dynamic there?
Yeah, so we hire in you know, multiple different places at HackerOne, and really we try to follow the talent you know, while keeping within our business needs as well. You know, we have to take into consideration time zones, etc. as well. We're seeing a lot of growth in India right now. There is a brilliant cyber security pool of candidates out there. So we're hiring multiple positions there at the moment. I think I've got about 5 open. Myself, we're expanding Singapore as well, so a couple of roles there at the moment. And then we've got a few in UK, a real mix of roles at the moment, because I'm regional, so I support all business units under the region. I'm hiring for an order management specialist in RevOps. I'm hiring for a customer account executive, which is an account manager in sales. I'm hiring for product security analysts in India. Hiring for salespeople to join our new team in APAC. So it's really, really varied.
How do you look for the right kind of role, and what kind of communication with the hiring manager? What level of communication do you need to make sure that you've got a balance between what you're learning and what is being told to you from within the company in terms of business needs.
Yeah. So while I'm hiring a role, I live in the hiring manager's pocket. They will hear from me weekly, if not daily, to make sure that we're working together really closely. We all understand timelines. How I learned, so we've got the best position, I think, being a recruiter to learn. We talk to people on the market every single day. Like that is by far the best way to learn, is just by talking to people, understanding, the nuances of the market, what does the market want, understanding the roles that we're recruiting for, are we looking for the right thing in the right place? And it's taking that back and discussing it, internally as well. I think it's great to have and back that up with data as well. So, data is the best place to start, I think, to make sure that we're doing things right, considering, the right decisions, and to drive change.
You're looking at data from different angles as well. And when it comes to the recruitment process or using data that comes out of recruitment technology, and how far does that help you? I know you said you use an ATS, but is there any other metric or is there any other data point that you think is useful when it comes to hiring for specialized roles and looking across the region for different kinds of changes in the landscape?
Yeah, good question. And I think AI and in recruitment and data is one of my favorite topics. The first thing I will say is I know that a lot of people are scared of AI and recruitment. You see that post all the time about ATS robots, auto rejecting people's applications. That doesn't really happen. It's most of us reviewing applications. Of course, we could set up knockout questions. So I could set up a question that's for a role that's based in UK and say, are you based in the UK? If a candidate answers no to that, it might auto reject them, but I've set that up. So there's multiple ways I think that we use AI, and it's not as scary, I think, as job seekers are made to feel it is. So AI is used, I think, a lot at the moment, quite heavily within interviews. So being able to summarize your interviews instead of note taking, where you're not even looking at the screen or talking to the candidate. So that's something that we're exploring at the moment at HackerOne, summarizing our interview notes. So just being able to make things much quicker, I think, and improve the candidate experience and give a better quality of notes. But I think data is the biggest thing in recruitment. So you can see everything from the numbers, how many people have passed through this process, how quickly did they pass through this process, how many days did they have to wait for feedback, and then look at all of that together and what was their candidate NPS score, were they happy, and then really break down that process that they went through and see where we need to improve. Also being able to have that data to influence decisions internally as well. So, hey, hiring manager, I'm seeing X, Y, and Z on the market, and I think that we need to look at this. And so I think data is hugely important. I think in any role, but in recruitment particularly, being able to drive the changes with that. And AI, I'm embracing AI. I'm excited for it. But I think everyone in recruitment is naturally a little apprehensive about it because, we don't know what that's going to look like. Our industry is already slammed, about these ATS bots, which aren't a thing. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I can't say, we're using a huge amount of AI at the moment, although our platforms do have AI built in. And if anyone knows of anything that I should try, then feel free to hit me up.
And finally, Michaela, what is your favorite or most memorable recruitment story? I'm sure you have many, but what stands out for you?
Yeah, I think my favorite, it's not a particular story based on, one person, but my favorite thing in recruitment is when we have a candidate that was previously rejected for whatever reason. They went through the process and, maybe they didn't make it, they weren't hired. And then we give that candidate feedback. They go away and they come back in, 6 months or a year and they get hired. I think that's my favorite thing in recruitment. I've seen it happen a lot more recently. We're able to kind of nurture the same pipeline and bring those people in that, really want to work here and have gone away and improved. And yeah, that gives me a really, really good feeling.
And do they remember that experience from the first time being rejected? Do they
Yeah.
talk about that
Yeah,
the
I
next
mean,
interview?
we'll get, I mean, we've just had one that we've hired. So, and it's happened multiple times. And I think a huge part of it is that, we give them the feedback and we
Feedback.
say what
Yeah.
they needed to work on.
Mm.
But second of all, they go away and they work on it. And
Yeah.
they, they come back and are able to ace the next interview. So
Yeah.
it's
So
just something very wholesome, I think.
I'm just curious, in situations like this, I would assume technology has the records to show that this person has gone through that process
Mhm.
before. And with a new application for another role, I mean, you're going to see that. So I suppose that's
Yeah.
another insight that technology would give you as well.
Yeah, and quite often we'll go back through candidates that we had in previous roles and review
Mm.
those and see if we can bring them forward for new roles as well. So when you get a rejection email and it says we'd love to keep your details on record, like we really do that. Like we do
No.
still really look at candidates after as well. So
Yeah, I think it's just thinking about the whole cycle and how important feedback is and how that contributes to candidate experience. That's certainly invaluable to both sides, I suppose, in situations like this, right? So I'm really glad that you got to see that in your role at HackerOne. So thank you very much, Michaela, for your time, your, your generous insights today, and I'm sure the audience listening in will be uh, excited to hear it and really find it useful for their own practices as well. So for those who want to connect with you, maybe pick up a conversation later, where can they connect with you?
yeah, LinkedIn is
Mm.
the best way to get through to me. My name on LinkedIn is Michaela Ricketts.
Excellent. So thank you again, Michaela. And we have been in conversation with Michaela Ricketts of HackerOne. Thank you for joining us, and remember to subscribe. Stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruit.